yours doesn't sound like that. Yours sounds like this, because I've heard it from literally 1,000 or 2,000 beginners in the course of my career. Hey everybody, Adam Gussow here with number 2 in this totally improvised sequence of lessons designed for beginning players who just can't do it. So I was terrifically gratified with the response to the first lesson in this series, and there's so much more to do. My MO in this particular series of lessons is to slow way down and to assume that as a raw beginner or a novice or a newbie or whatever term you want to apply, or whatever term the harp players are applying to you, that actually you can use that slow pace and that step by step. You kind of need a nerd who can play and who sort of a village explainer. That's what I'm going to be for you. So before we start, key of C harmonica, I did say that you should probably spend, I just went on Amazon and Sweetwater, a Hohner Marine Band, which is it's a professional grade instrument that it's great to begin on, and it's also what's the pros play, so it's very unusual in that respect. You can just spend 50 to 55 bucks on Amazon or Sweetwater. That's the sort of standard discount rate. You've got to make that investment. Okay, so let's assume you've got a professional grade beginner's harp, Hohner Marine Band, key of C. In future lessons, I'll talk about why we're going to start on the C and why we play in G once we start to play blues. We're nowhere near blues right now. We're really just trying to get, well, the last lesson was how to play a single note. I'm not going to review what I did in that lesson. I don't think, should I? You'll go back and watch it, right? But what I'm going to say is that being able to get a single note, I'll review it. Okay, 30 seconds. We go, the way a French person might, moi, I could not care less. We take the harp, we put it to our lips, we have constructive tension with the harp pushing against our mouth. Doesn't really matter how you hold it. I'm not even talking about how to hold it. And that will give you, if you narrow down the inner part of your pucker, that will give you a single note. So we've got to that point. You have got now, hopefully you're improving on that single note. 4 blow, 4 draw, 4 blows. Last time we met, I said you should tap your foot or keep a beat and go 4 beats on the 4 blow and 4 beats on the 4 draw. If your note sounds like that, you're not a raw beginner. You're actually doing pretty well, but your note probably doesn't sound like that. It probably sounds more like... If it sounds like that, watch the first lesson. Once you can go out, go in, blow, and then draw. So you push air through, you blow, and then you draw air through, you pull. Once you can do that on the 4-hole, what's the next step? Move up to the next hole. And for most beginners, this is a really tricky thing. It's not nearly as easy as, people have been playing for half a century as I have. It's kind of natural for us. So if I want to go... Now there are single note riffs that are tricky for me. That's hard. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and then 6 blow. 2, 3, 4 draw. That timing is tricky. Okay, hard for me. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go 4 blow, 4 draw, and then I'm going to move to the side and go 5 blow and 5 draw. That's today's challenge. That's all I'm going to talk about, how to do that, and then maybe how to go back down, ideally. Now, it's supposed to sound like this. And if I want to, I can go right back down. Now, I understand all you intermediate players, you're rolling your eyes. I'm sure a couple of you actually with the first video was like, I've been with you for a long time. I don't need this super beginner's stuff, but some beginners do, and I can tell from the response to this video. So yours doesn't sound like that. Yours sounds like this, because I've heard it from literally 1,000 or 2,000 beginners in the course of my career. You're getting multiple notes. So how do we get you from multiple notes? Well, the first thing you understand is that once you can get, and stay with lesson 1 until you can do it, once you can get that single note in clear and out clear, blow and draw, then the challenge is to maintain your embouchure as you slide exactly the right amount to your right, or slide the harp to the left. Now, I don't know which I do. I mean, I think I probably slide the harp and keep my head stationary, right? So I make a subtle motion with my hands. I can do it this way. It doesn't really matter how I hold it. And it really, I should have just a 3-note thing. It should be 4 blow, 4 draw, 5 blow. Because really, once you get 5 blow nailed in, it should stay there and be a clear single note when you go 5 draw. It's really just moving from 4 to 5. That's really hard if you've been playing for a couple of weeks. That's like right where your edge is. Because what seems to happen is, even if you can get a single note locked in really well, the moment you move to the side, the moment you slide that harp, and it is the harp, that's just a subtle motion that you're pushing it to the left so that it's moving up, in effect. And by the way, a glissando, I know some of you don't like the musical terminology, but it's just part of what I do. Glissando means a sort of slide. So okay, that's a glissando on all blow notes, okay? Let's go back. Time out. Let's go back. Come on, Dr. Gussow. So let's diagnose the mistakes you're making. Let's assume you've got that 4 blow, 4 draw dialed in. It's working for you. My first lesson gave you the power to do it. But then something falls apart when you slide sideways. What's happening? Well, I would say there's 3 things that could happen. Number 1 is you don't move quite enough. And so what you get in that second note is not 5 blow, but you get 5 blow with a little bit of 4 blow in it. This happens quite a bit. You're a little scared. You know you got to move sideways. You don't want to move too far. So that's one thing that happens. And you have to learn how to diagnose. So what does that sound like? Well, 4 and 5 together sound like that, root and third. There's a little bit of a beat tone. The 5 blows probably a little flat. Or my embouchure could be a little bit off, which would flatten one of the notes. So that's one way to go. So when you don't go far enough, the next time you want to try to go a little further. In that case, what probably happens is that you go a little too far. And there I've gone to the 5 with a little bit of 6 up above, right? You see how that works? The other thing, so one other thing that could be happening is that you might be, your embouchure might not hold steady as you move to the side. You may relax your lips a little bit, thinking that that's the way you kind of need to relax them in order to move the harp, right? Very common. And I just did that. So one thing you might do to see if that's what's going on, is you might try to do exactly what I just did. I'm kind of relaxing my lips. And that control, the control that you begin to develop when you begin to try to make that weird sound where you're sort of purifying the note and then you're relaxing a little bit and adding in a little bit of that second note, the 6 to the right side or the 4 to the left side, that's actually important. It's important to develop that. Now, there's another thing, by the way. If you're a beginner and you really are into this harmonica thing, you may find that your lips start to get tired. How does tiredness manifest with your lips? A little bit like if you were trying to get into running and you went out and you jogged a slow mile, and you might be okay for most of it, and then suddenly you might just have basically incipient muscle failure, which is to say your muscles might get tired. Eventually that goes away if you keep training. I'm a runner, so I think in running terms. I'm going to open this window. It's a little bit warm in here. Gosh, we're in Mississippi summer. So we've identified 3 things that might be getting in the way of you executing the perfect 4-blow, 4-draw, 5-blow. 3 things. And perfect, again, for our purposes. Three blind mice. It's the opposite of 3 blind mice. You could start on 5. Three things get in the way. Number 1, you don't move far enough, and your embouchure then gets you, instead of just getting 5, you get a little bit of 4 mixed in with 5, or you move too far, you get a little bit of 6 mixed in with 5. What you want is just 5 by itself. So one thing you might do to troubleshoot all this is you might just go to 5 by itself. You might start on 5. Why don't we do that? One thing that can happen is that you'll notice that the difference between the notes, between 5-blow and 5-draw, is different than the difference between 4-blow and 4-draw. Did you notice that? That's actually a really important thing. Yes, the intervals between the blow note and the draw note vary depending on which hole you're on. A lot of holes have just a whole note. 4 is like that. 1 is like that. 6 is like that. 8? 8 is like that. So you might start on the 5. You might start on the 5. Now let's go back to 4 and just repeat the same thing on 4. Why is that a good thing to do? And I'm improvising this. I'm trying to really go where you are. Why is this a good thing to do? Well, number 1 is you're training your ear to hear a good 5-blow. So maybe move from 4 to 5, just like start on 5. And then back to 4. And now it's like, okay, I got that move, I got that move. Now I can go 4-blow, 4-draw, 5-blow, 5-draw. Put them together. Put those 2 moves together. That's actually a hugely important principle I found in sort of learning new melodies on the harmonicas. If you can't do something all at once, divide it into 2 parts. Do the part A, do part B, then combine them. So this is actually a great first chance to do that. I've just put them together. And amazing, you're doing it. Well, it's still not sounding like that for you, is it? It's sounding more like this. And here's the problem. The problem is if that's how it sounds for you, so you're lacking a sort of an ability to manifest just the most basic kind of fundamental of the harp, which is clear single notes without other stuff in, without extraneous stuff. That's where you are. That's where all beginners are. Some of them get better quicker. Some of them get better more slowly. Some of them never escape that sort of that slacker sound. I'm sorry. It's not a very developed sound. But that's where you are. Now the question is, how badly do you want to get better? If you want to really get better more quickly, if you want to get past this, you have to get past this. Well, what's the practice? Practice is 4-blow, 4-draw. Start and end there. Then 5. If it's sounding like this, you need to tighten up on it. And you need to learn how to hear it. And that's where I think I can be really helpful, because you may not have even heard it when you stumbled into my first lesson or this lesson. Now you can hear it and you know it's not right. It's a double stop. It's a sort of partial double stop, we would call it. Okay, why is this important? Transcendently important, because if you start to do actual melodies and don't have these fundamentals in shape, the melody's not going to sound right. And the best example of that would be "Oh Susanna." Now that's actually, at least we can kind of hear the melody in there. But most people who are having the trouble you're having, it doesn't sound even that good. It sounds more like you get totally lost. And so you might start on the 3 instead of the 4. And pretty soon you're wandering in a thicket of things that don't really sound like the song. So it's really important to master these basics. That's it. That's this lesson. There's nothing more to it. I'll be back with you soon with a third lesson in the series. At some point we're going to talk about cross harp. Oh, terrible. I did not know what I wanted to play. Isn't that horrible? I'll see you down the road. Bye-bye.